Turtle King Chronicles, Floating on the Sea. Chapter 1, The Spirit of a Pool. Gao Chunyao didn't like to keep cats and dogs since he was a child, and he said that those animals were too clingy to go into the water. But he only has an inexplicable liking for reptiles. When he was 10 years old, he picked up a snapping turtle slightly larger than a palm by a suburban stream, with strange silver lines on its shell and a kind of human stubbornness in its eyes. He brought the snapping turtle home and named it Aoxiao. I thought it was an ordinary pet, until one day, Gao Chunyao inadvertently heard a voice in a dream, "Master, your craftsmanship is too poor, can you not feed raw apples next time?" Gao Chunyao was so frightened that he rolled over and fell out of bed, and saw that Aoxiao was standing on the balcony, looking at the moon, like a contemplative warrior. From that day on, they were able to communicate with each other without barriers, and even felt each other's emotions. But what's even more strange is that as time goes by, Aoxiao's size has grown rapidly. By the age of 3, it was the size of a car, and by the age of 5, it was able to carry Gao Chunyao across the entire West Lake. Gao Chunyao found that his physical fitness, lung capacity and even underwater vision began to be shared with Aoxiao. Later, he can summon a tortoiseshell amulet to defend against hostility, sneak perception to predict crises, and even talk to fish underwater. He was no longer an ordinary man, but something like a master of the waters. However, the rivers and lakes are narrow, and the ridges are too big, and there is no room for them. Their gaze began to turn to the sea. Chapter 2, The First Battle of the Wrath of the Tide. Ooh, this time we're no longer just fleeing, we're going to conquer. When this sentence was spoken, Gao Chunyao didn't expect to be heard by the webcast reporter. A few days later, a video titled "The Giant Turtle Boy Claims to Conquer the Sea" went viral on the internet. But Gao Chunyao didn't have time to control public opinion, and they came to the Angry Tide Bay, a dangerous sea area known as the Deep Sea Rift. It is rumored to be inhabited by a variety of unnamed creatures, and there are even remnants of ancient sea beasts. On their third day in Raging Tide Bay, they encountered their first challenge, a school of cold fish. This is a group of deep-sea exotic fish with a 5-meter-long, blade-like tail fin that specializes in gnawing on large creatures. Aoxiao opened his mouth to create a water vortex tornado, swallowing dozens of them, but it was also injured for the first time, and the tortoise shell cracked the first crack. Gao Chunyao was in pain as if his sternum had been smashed, and this battle, for the first time, he truly realized the price of resonance. It was on this night that Aoxiao asked him in a low voice for the first time, "Lord, do you want to continue? We can go back to land." Gao Chunyao hugged its bloody turtleneck and said categorically, "You became strong for freedom, and I will accompany you to the deepest part of the sea." They infiltrated the bottom of the rift, defeated the century-old red-crowned sea lizard, retrieved the legendary Eye of the Tide source, and evolved the Tide Pattern armor, which can automatically adjust the sea pressure and temperature. Since then, Raging Tide Bay has become their territory, and it truly belongs to the sea of the first king of Aoxiao. Chapter 3, The Giant Whale Alliance and the Rebellion of Fishing Equipment. The Howling King's fame grew, attracting the attention of other wise sea beasts. One of them is the Queen of the Green Whales, a sea beast royal family with a 100-meter-long body that can navigate the entire sea area with sound waves. She sent an envoy to ask Aoxiao to join the Giant Whale Alliance to fight against the human fishing armament group that has emerged in recent years, a new type of group focusing on mechanized deep-sea hunting. Gao Chunyao refused at first. He's not here to fight. But he changed his mind when he saw countless seas destroyed, sharks frozen alive and transported to the black market, and coral forests turned into lime fields. Not just for the roar, but for the whole sea. As a result, Gao Chunyao, on behalf of Aoxiao, signed the Covenant of the Sea Law with the Giant Whale Alliance, which was officially upgraded from an adventure between a person and a pet to a counterattack battle of the cross-species alliance. And the trigger of the war is a dark tide attack. Chapter 4, The Battle of the Floating Sea. The headquarters of the Fishing Armament Regiment is located on an uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean, where there is a floating platform and a submarine blockade. They built a set of deep chain nets that could close the tide and divide the ecology, and forcibly changed the direction of the tide to concentrate fishing. The beast army led by Aoxiao smashed the core, and Gao Chunyao controlled the back of the turtle, like a water god. Wind wall. Tide crash. They are no longer masters and pets, but a pair of real comrades in arms. Brigadier General Xi Ning, the villain leader of the Fishing Weapons Regiment, known as the first person in marine science and technology, finally confronted Gao Chunyao head-on, and told the truth. "You think you picked it up? He's one of our first genetic weapons, but you accidentally broke its seal. Gao Chunyeo couldn't believe it, but Ao Xiao looked back at him with a calm expression. I did come from the abyss, but I did choose you. Chapter 5, The End of the Sea. After defeating Xining, the submarine blockade belt was lifted, the tide returned to its origin, the Giant Whale Alliance became a true maritime governance alliance, and Ao Xiao was named the Tide King and had the highest freedom of navigation in the sea. And Gao Chunyeo, when he returned to land, only took a sea bone necklace and a manuscript that recorded the entire history, the Turtle King. But every time the moon is full, he will still ride a roar and cruise the boundless ocean. That night, a little girl saw a man and a turtle galloping on the top of the waves on the beach, and asked her grandmother, "What is that?" Grandma smiled and said, "That's the king and his beast." Chapter 6, Dreamtide Floating Massacre. A year after the Battle of the Floating Sea, Gao Chunyeo returned to city life as a marine ecology lecturer and occasionally participated in environmental protection projects. Ao Xiao inhabits the deep waters sanctuary behind the Qingzhan whale and assists in patrolling the sea area. However, one night, Ao Xiao suddenly took the initiative to contact Gao Chunyeo. "Lord, I dreamed of the ancient turtle god last night. He said to me, our bloodline is not the end, but the seal." This dream was like an introduction, and the next day, the entire Southeast Ocean area was against the tide, the sea water was reversed, the ocean current was retrograde, and even the submarine volcanoes were extremely active. After Qingzhan whale convened the Council of the Beastmaster, at the meeting, an ancient creature appeared, Suantao Rei King, an underwater wise man who has lived for 2,000 years. He said, in ancient times, there were 7 tide divine beasts guarding the sea area, and the 7th tide beast, Xian Turtlezun, is the ancestor of the Snapping Turtle clan. He was sealed in the Dreamtide Floating Massacre, and Ao Xiao is the last inheritor of his bloodline. Dreamtide Floating Massacre is an ancient tower that exists in memory, which can only be entered by dreams, and the legend seals the truth of ancient wars and a calamity that has not yet awakened. Gao Chunyeo decided to accompany Ao Xiao into this memory tower where fiction and reality are intertwined. Chapter 7, The Tower of Memory. The interior of the Dreamtide Floating Buddha is like an inverted world, and each layer is a memory projection. The first layer is the birth of the worm, born in the biology laboratory, implanted with the divine beast serum, and abandoned. The second layer is the picture of Gao Chunyeo and Ao Xiao's first encounter. The difference is that Gao Chunyeo on this layer is another image, a teenager with long hair and an ancient flute. "It's not my," Gao Chunyeo whispered. Suantao Rei's voice came, "The dream tower not only projects the memories of Ao Xiao, but also pulls out the past of those whose fate is intertwined." Gao Chunyeo realized that he might not just pick up the person by chance. He also has a deeper connection with the blood of the turtle god. On the 3rd floor of the tower, a whirlpool door opened, and a giant tortoise in mercury armor appeared. Its eyes were distant, and it whispered to Ao Xiao, "If you succeed me, you will bear the fate of calamity and salvation." Ao Xiao hesitated. Gao Chunyeo stepped forward and reached out to touch the giant turtle's forehead. A burst of intense power suddenly surged out of his body. It was the power of the fusion of ancient divine beasts and humans. He is no longer a mere resonator, but a new carrier of the deity. The dream tide collapsed, and the two fell out of the dream. Chapter 8, The Corona Descends. After waking up from a dream, the ocean changes drastically. A mysterious body of water appeared in the open ocean, and all ships lost contact when they approached. This area is named Nameless Aqua Valley. The Alliance held an emergency meeting and decided to send the Beastmaster army to jointly investigate with Gao Chunyeo. Qingzhan Whale Queen whispered to Gao Chunyeo, "You are already an extraordinary person, we can all sense the ancient god bloodline in your breath." Entering the tide, they encounter the true calamity, the ruins of the Ming realm, a deep-sea beast formed by a 10,000-year-old spirit with the ability to devour memories and wills. The beast army was completely annihilated, leaving only Ao Xiao, Gao Chunyeo, and the 3 giant whales to support themselves. The eye of the tide source on Ao Xiao's body was shattered, and the entire turtle was almost torn in half. Gao Chunyeo roared, "I won't let you die." He awakens the divine blood in his body and condenses it into the tide crown, the crown that symbolizes the tide god. He fused with Ao Xiao as one, his body as huge as a god, and his body surging with the power of 10,000 seas. The ruins of the Ming realm, retreat. A blow to the tide surge trial tore through the entire tidal region, and the Ming boundary was sealed back into the abyss. Ao Xiao fell into a deep sleep, while Gao Chunyeo, wearing a tide crown on his head, stood in the center of the sea, with all the beasts bowing to him. From that day on, humans and sea beasts made a true peaceful tide oath and shared the sea.